Let me tell you something no one has ever said to you this way, directly. Your brain loves learning. It was born for it, but it hates studying the way you were taught. And do you know why? Because they taught you to study like a machine, but you're human. They told you to repeat, to memorize, to copy, review, repeat again. But the brain wasn't made to follow commands. It was made to explore ideas. Think of the times you learned something effortlessly. Maybe a new game, a song, or that episode of a series you still remember in every detail. You didn't study that. You lived it. Your brain was celebrating, active, curious, connecting things, creating stories, laughing, engaging. That's what real learning feels like. Now compare it to that moment when you sat in front of a book, repeating the same sentences, trying to convince yourself you were focused. That feeling when your mind starts to drift. Your body is there, but your head is gone. That's your brain screaming, "This isn't working." Think about how many times you tried to learn something and felt like nothing was sinking in. How many times you looked at a page and everything felt dull, lifeless, colorless. Now, pay close attention to me. The problem was never the subject. It was the way you tried to learn it. The human mind was created to discover, not to memorize. It lights up in front of a mystery, but it shuts down in front of repetition. When you feel bored while learning, it's not a lack of intelligence. It's a sign that you're trying to push knowledge through a path your brain refuses to take. Boredom is your brain's alarm saying, "Hey, you're not really learning. You're just trying to survive the information." Now imagine something simple. A scientist facing a mystery. He doesn't memorize formulas, he plays with them. He tests, he fails, he compares, he asks, "Why does this happen?" And in that process, his brain lights up like a constellation. That's what learning truly is. It's investigation, it's connection, it's transforming the unknown into something familiar. But what do most people do? They pick up a book and try to force the mind to obey. You don't master knowledge that way, you push it away. Learning is not punishment. It's the most fascinating game ever created. But you only discover that when you stop studying like a robot and start thinking like an explorer. The secret is curiosity. Every time you ask, "What if?" the brain wakes up. Every time you just read without questioning, it falls asleep. You don't need more discipline. You need more discovery. So next time learning feels boring, don't run from it. Ask yourself, what am I doing wrong in this process? Because boredom is not the enemy. It's the teacher showing you there's a better way to learn. The problem isn't the content, it's the method. You're not dumb. You're just using the wrong tool for the right task. It's like trying to fly a plane by pushing it with your hands. Of course it feels exhausting. Of course it feels useless, because it is. You were conditioned to believe that effort equals learning. But effort without direction is just waste. True learning happens when you're curious, when your brain wants to know what comes next, when you're playing with knowledge, not fighting against it. And the most beautiful part? This isn't a gift, it's a habit. You can reignite that love for learning. All it takes is changing the way you approach ideas. Stop trying to study, start to understand. Stop trying to memorize, start to discover. You weren't born to memorize answers. You were born to ask the kind of questions that change the world. Let me tell you something that might completely change the way you see learning. The brain doesn't learn because it has to. It learns because it makes sense. Everything that feels hard or boring is really just something your brain hasn't connected yet to what you already know. And that's why sometimes you understand complex things effortlessly, but freeze when facing something simple. It's not a lack of intelligence, it's a lack of connection. Imagine your brain as a map. Each idea you've ever learned is a city. When new information arrives, your brain tries to draw a road, to link the new to what already exists. If it finds the path, boom, you understand. But if it doesn't, that new thing becomes an isolated desert, and that's where boredom begins to grow. Now take a breath and think. How many times have you looked at something and said, "This is useless"? Well, here's the truth. The problem isn't the subject. It's that you haven't yet seen why it matters. And here's the trick. Relevance isn't something you find, it's something you create. You can make anything interesting if you know how to connect it to your world. If you're learning biology, think about how your body is your own laboratory. If it's math, see how it organizes the chaos in everything. in money, in music, in the stars. When you give purpose to what you're learning, your brain lights up like a lamp. It says, "Oh, so that's what this is for." And in that moment, knowledge stops being a weight and becomes power. Listen closely. Everything that feels hard right now can become joyful once you find the right bridge. That bridge is built with curiosity, analogies, and the desire to see how every idea connects to your life. Learning is like building a puzzle. Sometimes you're not missing ability, just the right piece. And when it finally fits, you feel that spark inside. That's your brain celebrating discovery. So the next time something feels irrelevant, ask yourself, how can this help me understand the world better? Because the secret was never about escaping boredom. It's about turning boredom into curiosity. Now imagine something powerful with it. You're so immersed in what you're doing that you lose track of time. Hours pass and they feel like minutes. You're not hungry, not tired, not rushed, just deeply focused, light, alive. That's the flow state. It's that magical moment when your brain and your soul dance to the same rhythm. And guess what? That's when real learning happens. Because flow is your brain's natural way of saying, "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." But here's the problem. Almost no one knows how to get there because we spend our lives trying to force learning instead of falling in love with it. You can't enter flow by repeating meaningless phrases. You enter it when you feel you're discovering something real, when you sense progress, even if it's slow. Listen to me now. This matters. The brain enters flow when there is challenge and meaning at the same time. If it's too easy, it gets bored. If it's too hard, it gets frustrated. But when something is hard enough to pull you and clear enough to guide you, you step into that state where everything begins to flow. That's where learning becomes pleasure, where exhaustion turns into energy, where curiosity becomes fuel, and time simply disappears. Want an example? Think about when you were a child just playing. You didn't study to learn, yet you were learning all the time. Every attempt was an experiment, every mistake a discovery. You were in flow, naturally. You were living the experience, not chasing the result. And that's what most adults forget. The courage to play with knowledge, to experiment, to make mistakes, to enjoy the process. Because learning isn't about memorizing ideas, it's about living them. And flow is that moment when your brain finally remembers that learning is as natural as breathing. When you find this, studying stops feeling like a burden and becomes a beautiful addiction. You don't want to stop because you can feel yourself growing every second. And that's the kind of pleasure that turns ordinary people into extraordinary minds. Let me share a secret no school ever teaches. The best learners in the world aren't the ones who study the longest. They're the ones who know when to stop. Yes, stop. Because learning doesn't bloom when you force your mind. It blooms when you respect your own rhythm. The brain isn't a muscle made of steel. It's a living garden. And a garden doesn't grow because you pull the plants upward, but because you give them time and the right soil. So many people confuse productivity with exhaustion. They spend 10 hours trying to learn, but only truly understand during the first 2. And after that, the body stays, but the mind drifts away. You felt it. That moment when you read the same sentence 5 times and still can't understand a thing? That's your brain asking for rest. And what do most people do? They ignore it, they push harder, and they kill the joy of learning. Listen to me carefully now. Deep learning demands energy, and energy is not forced, it's renewed. You need pauses, you need breath, moments where the brain reorganizes, reconnects, and finds meaning. It's in that silence that ideas begin to bloom. It's in rest that knowledge turns into wisdom. So stop measuring your worth by how many hours you spend studying. It's not the quantity of time that defines your progress. It's the quality of your attention. 3 hours of real learning are worth more than 10 hours of obligation. You don't need to study more. You need to study better. If you can enter flow, truly engage for 3 hours, then allow yourself to stop, to breathe, to walk. You'll return more creative, more alive, more ready to learn again. Because learning is not a race, it's a dance between effort and rest. And when you finally understand that, you realize that learning can be the most natural, joyful, and transformative act of your life. Do you know the biggest mistake of people who want to learn more? It's believing that learning is about accumulating knowledge. It's not. Learning is about transforming yourself. Knowledge that doesn't change the way you think is just information. But true learning changes your vision. It changes how you see the world, and most of all, how you see yourself. Have you ever noticed how people who love learning seem more alive? They don't know everything, but they carry a curiosity that lights up their eyes. They don't memorize facts, they dance with ideas. And that's why you must stop fearing the process. Mistakes, doubts, difficulties, they're all part of the alchemy of growth. Listen to me carefully, because this might be the most important thing you'll hear today. You're not bored because the subject is dull. You're bored because you stopped engaging with the mystery of life. And life, my friend, is the greatest classroom there is. Everything in it teaches something, but only those who look with curiosity, not haste, truly learn. Learning isn't easy, but it doesn't have to be heavy. It becomes lighter the moment you realize that every challenge is an opportunity to become more conscious, more awake, more human. And when you fall in love with that, everything changes. The fear of failing disappears. Comparison loses its meaning, and a new version of you begins to emerge. A mind that's alive, restless, creative. Because learning at its core is an act of love. Love for understanding the world, for expanding yourself, for discovering what lies beyond the obvious. And those who love learning never grow old. They may change careers, countries, or dreams, but they never stop growing. So if learning has felt boring lately, stop, breathe, and ask yourself, where did I lose my curiosity? Because when it comes back, everything starts to make sense again. And maybe, right now, you're realizing something simple yet powerful. Learning was never the problem. The problem was forgetting how incredible discovery truly is. And I want to hear from you. Write in the comments below with just one sentence. I choose to relearn how to learn. Because that small act, writing it, is already proof that you've understood the message. You don't want to just collect information. You want to awaken that curiosity the world once made you forget. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel now and turn on the bell. And don't forget to leave your like right now. Here, every video is made to reignite something inside you, to remind you that learning is not a burden, it's a privilege, and your brain was made for it, to grow, to evolve, and to marvel at what it doesn't yet know. Because in the end, those who truly learn never live bored again.